And welcome to the Rebel's Edge. And I'll tell you what, this is a special day for me. And you know why? I have never seen my brother John look better in my entire life. I mean, I'm looking at the guy, look at the youthful smile, the big head of hair. That is Marc
Man.
LoPresti, one of the best that there is. He's been all over the place. Where are you today? I know you and John travel somewhere every day. Are you in like Dubai? Are you in LA? Or where the hell are you?
Some might say it's the Dubai of the West. No, but it is Los Angeles, one of my favorite places in the world. I had an office and a home here, Pete, for about 11 years.
No kidding.
Never full time. I was back and forth to New York, but really do consider this place a second home. I love it. Unfortunately, it's gotten beat up pretty hard over the past few years, and
Yeah.
COVID wake and some pretty poor management, a lot of problem with homeless and what have you here, but still an incredible city. We were here, of course, for the main event, the LD Micro, a 3-day small cap conference that is not to be missed. John and I were featured speakers. We were doing CEO interviews. We interviewed Pete in 2 days. Are you ready for this? In addition to the Rebel's Edge, we did 53 CEO interviews in 2 days.
That's impressive. That's impressive. You and John, I'll tell you what, you want to talk about the ever-ready battery guys. I mean, just keep going and going. And for the people who don't know this, John's 6 years older than me. I think he's got 60 times the amount of energy I got. But in any case, you guys work your tails off, and it's always pretty cool. By the way, my very favorite place to eat on the West Coast, if I'm in the south part of the West Coast, down there, Laguna and Newport and all that. Javier's Mexican. The best. Oh, outstanding. I'm a food guy. So between that and In-N-Out Burger, I've always kind of got something on my mind when I'm thinking about Southern Cal. All right, we're going to jump right into it, Marc. We're going to hit the macro minute. And with this macro minute, here's what I've got for you. The rates that are absolutely ruling the markets right now, along with AI and the algorithms and everything that's going into that. Because when you see days like we did yesterday, and we've seen this for a while now, up, down, up, down, up, down. I mean, absolutely, the velocity of these moves is extraordinary. And I credit that to these algorithms that can do that type of thing. And it's only going to get faster. So buckle up. But these rates, I think, are exactly what it's hooked to right now.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I don't know about you and most of our audience, but I am damn tired of talking about the Fed and rates. But unfortunately, that narrative is going to continue for a while. The jobs numbers are what's pushing against any market tailwinds today. Of course, investors and the Fed looking for weakness in the job market and just not getting it. Big concern not only over what happened today, but what's coming out on Friday. But Pete, as we've said before, we know volatility will reign supreme for the rest of the quarter, for the rest of the year. That I can promise you.
I love it. All right, we're back to Fantastic Futures, which is one
of
the all-time greats. I'll tell you what, Jared does an outstanding job for us, and I really appreciate it. I will give you this, Marc. When it comes to crude, how about this? September 26th, we hit $94 or in terms of the per barrel. Well, where are we now? Well, we're somewhere about 84, let's just call it. So pretty significant move to the downside. And if you don't think that's because of what people are doing, how the trading is actually being executed, then you'd be wrong, because that is exactly what's happening right now. It's some news here and there, of course, but this is really, again, very much like rates. It's tied to these algorithms, and these moves and the velocity of these moves is absolutely extraordinary.
Well, I cannot disagree with you. And what's interesting is the narrative in the traditional financial media sources talk about those moves being largely due to concerns about the recession, reduced demand, consumer spending. Yeah, those are pieces of it, but you got to attribute, as you say, the velocity of the moves to the algos and the computer-driven trading. Totally agree, but what a wild ride in oil.
It's been absolutely crazy. Oil, the rates, the markets themselves. You look at the Russell. I mean, just about everything has been on fire. All right, speaking of on fire, how about what's going on with Rivian right now? We're going to jump right to that. So when I look at Rivian, this is a name that when it IPO'd, the excitement level was absolutely outrageous. They priced it. The stock actually opened significantly higher. It ran even higher. I think at the highest levels, it might have hit $150 a share. Then it started to pull back. Well, this year, in the last 6 months, Mark, it's had a pretty nice run. It's up like 47%. Well, we're giving back a hell of a lot of that today because why? Well, when you start going into the convertible bond world and you start having some form of dilution, people don't get very happy about that. This is a company that's done really well with its recent deliveries. They're doing great with their pickup trucks. They're really excited about the SUVs. They're building a new plant in Georgia that's part of the convertible. But when you do that, people are not very happy, and they're not very happy today. Last I looked, Mark, I think it was down 9%. Then it was down 17%. So this is a stock that's under the gun right now.
Yeah, it's down almost 20 now, Pete. I mean, this thing is just absolute giving up half of those gains that you referred to. And the company, look, the overall fundamentals are looking better and better and better. They've got $9 billion in cash and cash equivalents on the books. Very unusual, I would suggest, for an upstart EV maker. They may not be an upstart EV maker anymore, maybe only as compared to Tesla, but they're clearly on the path to getting a rather significant and decent market share. Why this move to the downside so significantly? To your point, it's about that convertible debt offering that they announced. And what does the market do? Traders, they look at the prospectus, they look at the term sheet, they look at the convertible term features, and they go, okay, what's the dilution that's going to happen here? And price it into the stock. Yeah. It's just that simple. They do the math now. They don't wait for the convertibility features to actually occur, right? Which takes out a lot of the point of some of that convertibility and pushing that out to a future date. But that's what the market does. You show me the terms of the dilution, I'm going to price that in, slam the stock down to where it would be if that had been converted. That's what's happening today.
Perfect segue, because speaking about stocks getting slammed down, how about what's going on in Clorox today? Holy smokes. Now, 52-week lows, well, we were close to them, and then we broke right through that. We got all the way down to 120, maybe even lower than that. I don't know, Mark, but this is a stock that actually, when you look at what they were doing a lot of things right. The problem now going forward is the cybersecurity attack that they were under. And that is something that they were very open with. They told everybody about what happened, how this thing's going to play out, how that's going to affect next quarter's earnings. And that was something that was very disappointing to the markets. The markets did not like what they had to say about that. And because of that, and you can make that, it makes total sense. I think they were almost too transparent, Mark, about what they were saying about this. But, give them credit. They went out there and they said, this is what's happening. That cyber attack is causing this and this and this and this. And some of the costs are going to be this. And all of that goes together. That's why the stock's getting hammered. I don't think this is a stock that you should try to buy right now on the low. I would like to see this stock make any kind of a recovery. And when that happens, then I'd be interested, because at some point they will get past this cyber issue. And I think this is a stock that could go higher.
Well, and it's a CPG, consumer packaged good company that sells stuff we need regardless of interest rates and regardless of a recession. It's the kind of stock that when rates go higher, it's the kind of stock that when a government shutdown looms, it's the kind of stock that when people are selling off tech in a risk rotation, it's the kind of stuff that gets bought. So I hear your trepidation. I might be looking to buy it a little sooner. Not really sure exactly on my timing, but it's looking pretty cheap here in a sector that's going to do well as the shenanigans continue in Washington and with J-Pow through the rest of this quarter.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I was just being even a little bit more cautious. But, and I got to tell you, I don't have to buy the bottom on something. And I know you feel the same way. I don't have to buy the bottom. So I'd be willing to give it a little bit of room to start showing me that things are starting to change as far as mentally everybody getting into that. All right, next we're going to look at Disney. Now, Mark, this is a stock. Speaking about stocks that everybody's trying to buy, well, the stock went all the way up to about $150. It's funny how many of my peers they hated it at 100. They didn't like it much at 110, 120, 130, but they really loved it at 150. And now here we are underneath $80 a share. So I've always found that whole thing interesting. It didn't make sense to me because they had a lot of things that they were working on, including streaming, which they were late to. But there were a lot of things that they were working on. And I think that we all saw that there were some issues that they were having to deal with. Well, some of those issues started to be issues with the governor of Florida. And then suddenly they decided, well, you know what, we're going to have to figure that out. So they're trying to figure that out. But as they do that, they've decided they're going to have to double up on some of the costs, CapEx, for the parks, as well as some of the cruise ships. And then that's going to be something that will be doubling up and they're going to do well. Now, that is going to take a lot, Mark. So I don't know when this thing actually can stop and start turning to the other direction, but it's certainly under pressure once again. And I think a lot of that is now they're discounting tickets. I mean, that's something. When's the last time you heard Disney doing that? I mean, never is the word, never.
Yeah. Yeah. Not that I can remember. I mean, the last time that I went there, and I only have one kid. I mean, it was literally like, you know, what do they call it? A wallet ectomy? Just take all your credit cards and your cash and hope that there's something left at the end of the experience. I think doubling down on the stuff that works for them makes sense. I actually like this plan of improving theme park infrastructure, doubling down on CapEx, even their cruise business. Not a terrible idea, as opposed to the streaming wars, which, you know, they're still trying to figure out, right? Do they buy more of what they already own? Do they sell some of the stuff that's not really working? The streaming wars are going to continue to bloody names like Disney. So I like doubling down on their theme park dominance. I have heard a lot of trader talk, Pete, of people saying this thing's looking really cheap. It's Disney, for God's sakes, right? Look at their suite of products and characters and content. It's Disney. Question is, to your point, when does the turnaround start getting reflected in the stock? I think we've got a ways to go. I'm talking like a year to go, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know either what the time frame is, but I totally agree with you. I don't need to buy the bottom of this one either. And we're talking about a lot of negative things today. Now we're going to get one last one where we're going to be a little bit positive, I think. So I'm looking at Google/Alphabet. I still have never understood this whole Alphabet crap, so I'm going to stick with Google. But in any case, Mark, so now they've got the Pixel 8. They got the Pixel 8 Pro, what is it called? Smartphone. They got the watch. They've got it all, right? And this is great timing, I think, for Google, because Apple's got their issues. They're having to get out there and get in front of an issue that they had with the latest, greatest with the 15. And that's been a bit of a problem. So Apple, for the first time ever, sort of stumbling to some degree on their number one item, right? I mean, that's something that, you know, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it's not Apple's way. Apple always comes when they're ready to go. And you start wondering, and you look at Google and you look at what's going on with AI and all those kinds of things, Mark, I'm pretty intrigued. And here's the last thing I'd say about it. I think the reason that you're seeing Apple significantly off of its 52-week highs, which was up there at 198, and it's now like 173, 74, something like that. You look at Google, why is it up near its 52-week highs? Well, its PE level is still right around 20. This one is one of the cheapest of the biggest that are out there. And, you know, they've got a lot of different ways of making money. But what do you think of this one here? Because I actually think Google could still go a little bit higher, establish new 52-week highs. Not this week, but in the next couple of weeks, maybe even.
Yeah, potentially. And I think the relative cheapness, right, among the FANGs, as we love to talk about, is definitely what keeps some of the stability in the stock and price stability in the stock. Bigger concern is some of the regulatory stuff going on. Of course, the FTC coming hard after Google for monopoly on search and then everything associated with that, monopoly on advertising and what consumer behaviors are in terms of where people go on the internet. I mean, when you think about that, if you control search, you control a lot of where people go from where they search, right? And so I've got some concern about, you know, this FTC pretty aggressive under this Biden administration. A lot of concern around how that's going to play out. So we'll see. And look, you know, I think we said on this show that the last iPhone release was going to be a nothing burger, just a slightly fancier camera, you know, for $1,500 or whatever the hell the thing costs. I don't need it. I'm gonna deal with all the cracks and the glass leaking out of the back of my battered phone for as long as possible.
Well, and here's the funny part. I mean, ironic is when you talk about what's going on with the Google phone, their camera's better. There's a lot of functionality that's much better than the Apple product. And yet, Apple's got what Apple's got. People don't want to change. All right, Mark, we're going to jump to some sport. No, before we jump to sports, did you want to talk about Seline or any of that type of thing? Or
yeah, if we got just 30 seconds in our Venture Minute segment, appreciate that. And thank you, Jared, for teeing up those pictures of those gorgeous cars, and of course that heart-pounding Seline video. This, of course, as our viewers may recall, is a company that John and I we're in the cap table. We are advisors to this company. This is a paid spot, paid ads. This is something that shows like this do to keep the lights on and pay folks like our incredible producer, Jared, who does not get paid nearly as much as he's worth. Jared, we'll talk about that later. But this is the last day of the. Wow, was that a new sound effect?
That was good.
Like that. Good. This is the last day of the Seline crowdfunding opportunity for folks to get involved and check it out. If you go over to Start Engine, our friends over at Start Engine /Seline, you can learn more about the opportunity. Check it out. We love this company, around for 40 years, making incredible cars. There are risks associated with the investment. Please read the terms and prospectus carefully before you decide to invest. It may not be right for you. And if you experience excitement over a Seline investment for more than 4 hours, please call your doctor.
All right, now we're going to jump to sports, but I love that, Seline, and I am in line looking at pickup trucks right now as we speak. All right.
Yeah, so, there you go.
Here's what I got for you. I'll just do a rapid fire of certain games, and you tell me what you think about them, because I know I'm deeper into this than you are, but I still want to hear what you think about this. So, college football this weekend. Here are the biggest from the biggest conferences out there. The Big 12. The Red River rivalry. Now, this is a monster. And this year, it's Texas and Oklahoma. Both of them look pretty good. Texas went into Alabama and walked out with a victory. So you've got two undefeated teams in the Big 12 that's next year will be in the SEC playing against each other as they've done for many, many years. Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma is an unbelievable quarterback. Yours at Texas has done a great job. Who do you think comes out of this with the win this go around? And then we're going to the Big 10, then we're going to the SEC and the Pac-12. So we got to keep it tight.
My daughter's going to kill me, Pete, but I got Oklahoma as the clear favorite, and that is the game I'm going to be watching on Saturday.
I think you're right on that one, by the way. I think they're going to sneak up on him. I like that Dylan. He's great. 15 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, damn good quarterback. All right, next we're going to go Big 10. I don't know if they're real or not, but right out there on the East Coast, where I know you've spent a lot of your life, Maryland is 5-0 right now. 5-0. Tua's brother is absolutely lighting it up. Doesn't get talked about ever because everybody else is so much better. Not really. I don't think Deion's son's any better than this guy, by the way. And everybody, he's the greatest thing ever. Caleb Williams, pretty damn good. I would say that. But Tua's brother's damn good. Anyway, what do you think about that one? They got up against Ohio State. Ohio State's now 4-0. And you look at Maryland, 5-0. Is Maryland a pretender or are they real? What do you think right now?
I like Maryland's chances. We're going to see if they can make it 6-0. I think they got a really good shot.
I love it. I love that you're going with those guys. That's great. How about this one? SEC, LSU surprisingly is 3-2. I say that because they ought to be probably 4-1 or 5-0. That's what the expectations were coming into this year. They got a great quarterback. Obviously, we know the coach who's been around a long time is a hell of a coach. Great football team. They got Missouri, who, by the way, is also undefeated and 5-0, very much like Maryland. They're really good at every position. Can they take down LSU, who's filled with talent everywhere? What do you think of that one?
I would not bet against LSU. The track record thus far this season does not represent what this team has been historically capable of, as we all know. So I would not be betting against LSU.
That's a great one. I like that call. How about the Pac-12, which is, in my opinion, is the best conference in all of football this year, despite the fact that next year they'll be the Pac-2. But all that being said, Washington State and UCLA. Washington State 4-0, undefeated. Everybody in front of them, they've pretty much taken apart pretty well. UCLA finally got a loss the other day. How about this? Cameron Ward, the quarterback for Washington State, he's got 13 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Should that guy be maybe at least talked about once in a while when we're talking about what's going on in the Heisman race, or what?
Yeah, you would think so, and hoping that maybe we get another front row seat if our friends over there and Doug Flutie and the rest of them invite us to the Heisman's, as we had a front row seat for that last year, which was an incredible experience. But I am not going to say anything negative against UCLA, or it's likely when I go to get my car after the show for my first meeting here this morning, it will somehow be lost. So, UCLA, absolutely,
All right. I like it.
all the way.
Last thing, we're going to do a little quick Major League Baseball. So tell me this: the Rangers, Twins, Diamondbacks, Phillies, all won, all went 2-0 in this first round of the playoffs. Of those teams, do you have anybody that you look at and say, you know what, I think this team is going to go further through the next round as well? Is it Philadelphia? Maybe it's my Twins. They got great pitching, got a lot of good hitting. Got Royce Lewis, who might be one of the best players in all Major League Baseball, as it turns out. What do you think right now as far as Rangers, Twins, Diamondbacks, Phillies going forward? Is there one that you think really stands out to go to the next level?
Pete, I lost a lot of interest in how this was playing out after, my Cincinnati Reds got dropped, after all my East Coast teams didn't make it into the finals. So it's a little hard. But if I had to say and pick one, Philly looks pretty good. But it's not as exciting a race when I don't have one of my teams in it at this stage. But I'd probably say Philadelphia.
I would agree with you, especially if Philadelphia is at home. That home field advantage that they've got, I think, is just like the Eagles. I mean, they really do have some of the best fans there is in all of baseball. They're really outstanding, and it's fun to watch. And I think it's going to be great. My Twins, they finally broke a streak, Mark. They hadn't won a playoff game in something like 18, so that's a real problem. But they've gotten past it now. So now they think, you know what? Sky's the limit. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They got to go to Houston. All right, Mark. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. It was fantastic. Really, really appreciate it. Always a professional. We love it. And we'll see you next time. Rebels Edge, Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern.